Hello, it's Keys, and today I'm going to show you how to do StyroArt. Oh, that's bright. To do StyroArt all the way through. Today, right now, we're going to do step one, which is sketching the drawing onto the styrofoam. And we're using a AAXA Tech pocket projector, and we're going to go to the photos here. And this one is going to be our new design, straight out of wherever, which in this case is Cross Creek. If you don't know where that is, don't feel bad, because it's just a little town in Pennsylvania. And we're going to move this in a little bit here, try to fill up the square. And that's actually pretty good there. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, first step, you need styrofoam, naturally, and a Sharpie, black Sharpie. Use black, because if you use any other color, it'll bleed through the paint. And I discovered this by accident. It was a real pain in the ass. But that's all you need. You need something to project it on, unless you can do it freehand. If you can do it freehand, which I can't, more power to you. But I'll show you here, just try to get your piece centered, and holding it steady is going to be key in this. So you don't want to stray, so I just keep one hand against it. And once you get the basic lines drawn here, if it happens to slip out of place, you can do it, you can recenter it. So I just try to make all four extreme sides, get some markings on there. Okay, and now we're ready to go. So this will be, you don't have to watch this all the way through. You can basically get the idea where we're going. Well, this is live right now, so you won't be able to skip, but on the replay, you'll be able to do it. And don't worry too much about the straight lines getting kind of crooked. As you can see, my hand is not real steady on that. But the great thing about the X-Acto blades is they have a tendency to go straight anyway, so physics allows it to just, follow the straight line. And I just, work from top left to bottom right, so you don't smear it, or unless if you're left-handed, I guess you're going the other way. But this is really how you want to sketch and get things all settled for your cutting. If you're using a projector, you also want to make sure it's straight, because if you have it in an angle, your picture's going to be like, say you're facing it a little bit to the left, the picture is going to be wider at the top than it is over here, and it's going to have a kind of perspective on it. You really don't want that. I hope you can hear okay. I know the microphone's on the phone and I'm facing this way, so it might not be the best audio you're going to hear. But this is more of a visual thing anyway. I feel like Bob Ross. I'm going to put a happy little R right here. Yeah, that's nice. Poor Bob. We miss you, buddy. Funny, I'm drawing the word straight in straight lines. That's not particularly funny. Hey, it's a Saturday. What do you want from me? Happy little A. This is a more detailed design, so it's going to take a little longer to do. That's actually how I charge for StyroArt on my elbow. It's kind of like a tattoo. It doesn't depend on the size of the drawing so much as the detail. So a piece like this, right now I'm selling these pieces for $30, so if you're interested in the price may eventually go up, because it is a more complex design. Anytime you have text, that's a very detailed factor. But these are 30 right now, and probably go up to 40. This would normally be a $40 piece, I think. I wouldn't go 50 on it, because it is mostly straight lines. Straight lines tend to be easier than a lot of complex curves. That's why I hate the S's. Anytime I see an S, I'm like, ugh, the pain in the S. Sorry. was easy. When I get to the end, I like to keep my pinky against the styrofoam as it kind of guides. It's almost like a no-brainer. Just drag it up and down. Horizontal lines tend to be trickier. Go all the way up here. And the side. Next time I might be inclined to use a little microphone here. So I honestly don't know how the audio quality is. It's the first time I'm doing this. This room has a lot of echo, so hopefully the sound bounces back. Oops. If you go outside the line, don't worry, just draw over it and try to remember, which line counts. Or at the very least, you can go between the lines. Sometimes that works. And this. It's tea time. God, these are horrible. Oh, my phone just said I have a message. Probably somebody saying, quit with the jokes already. They're horrible. Making my brain hurt. One more. As Fonzie would say, hey! Yeah. God. What is wrong with me? At first guess, I would have to say a lot. Down to the last line here. Let's see if I can make some more horrible letter jokes. If you're wondering how I make these designs, I actually use a program called Corel Draw, which Corel is like the beta to Adobe's VHS. I used it when I worked at Radio Shack. Apparently they were giving away Corel Draw 3. They're up to 14 now, but I've used 11 for a long time. But you can do this by hand. You can sketch it out and then take a photo of it, put it on your projector, and do it that way. Just make sure your lines are straight. Try to keep everything in a good right angle fashion. You can always tell I'm getting to the end of a piece when I start shaking. It's not easy getting old. Now getting to the Nazi portion of the piece, the SS. Oh, God, that's horrible. Okay, I apologize for that one. That was out of line. I'm glad I'm at the end of this, because if you haven't turned it off by now from the jokes, if you call them that. Okay. Every once in a while you want to double check to make sure you didn't miss any lines, because that can be a pain when you're cutting and say, oh God, I missed a line here. Then you got to try to guess. Right now you guys are C students. Okay. Make it end, stop the bleeding. Okay, here's a better one. We're at the pirate portion of the piece. Arr! No, that wasn't better at all. It sounded better in my head, actually. Last one, I swear. I really do. Because this is the lady who just discovered a mouse in her kitchen in a 1950s cleaning commercial. Got that? Eek. I don't know what to say for myself about this. I really didn't think I'd be this talkative when doing this, but well, there you go. Almost there. That a little off on that line, that's okay. Remember the X-Acto heals all wounds and causes them sometimes too. I stabbed myself many a time. Get that down there. You. By the way, if you happen to need me to do a design, if you want to like do a carving and you don't have the software or really the drawing skills or anything, you want me to make a design for you, computer graphic design is a hobby of mine, so I certainly don't mind doing a piece or doing a design for you if you're going to engage in this activity. Line's kind of all over the place there, but every line you cut can actually act as a guide for a parallel line. So when you're cutting you really want to take your time. And that's it. I mean, you just, real simple start. You see I slipped out a little bit out of place. It's not too bad. But that's basically what you got to do. Just a piece of styrofoam, Sharpie, projector, and that's it. That's our first step. We'll be back to you with step 2. Oh, I'm really off. Oh God, it's like I'm out of focus. Bye-bye. Okay guys, we're back here. And I'm gonna pull the table in a little bit to myself. All right, we're at step 2 here. Now what you're gonna need here is the 2 tools of the trade. One is an X-Acto knife. And when it comes to these X-Acto knives, I've used several different brands, some of the cheaper ones, and I gotta say that if you're gonna use a blade, always get the X-Acto ones. And if you can, get the gold standard ones as well. Oh, I'm out of breath. Sorry. Because when it comes to, when you're cutting styrofoam, the cheaper blades, they actually have a tendency to tear the foam rather than cut cleanly. So it's always worth to spend a little extra money on that. The other tool is a scratch board tool. Now this just comes in 2 parts. The handles you can pretty much get at any craft store, Michael's, online. There's a site actually. It's called Dick Blick, if you can believe that. That's actually a craft store online. And the other part is these little blades. These are scratch board blades, and this is the Speedball brand, and it's I think these blades are called number 1. They're the diamond head. I don't know if you can see that if it's out of focus. It might be. I can't tell. But they also make StyroArt. StyroArt makes these, and their blades I would stay away from because the area here where it narrows before it goes to the blade, on the Speedball brand, these are bent, and that adds a lot of strength to these. The StyroArt brand they aren't bent there, and the blades tend to break. You might get 2 pieces out of a StyroArt blade before the head breaks on you. This, I've never had a head break on the Speedball brand, so look for those. Those are on Amazon, you can find. Okay, now to the actual cutting. We're going to start out, I like to start out with the smaller areas first, like the inside of the R, the inside of the A. Down here we have a couple more R's, we have an O. So we're going to start with the little parts first. And the key to cutting is, don't go straight into the foam, like up and down. You want to have about a 45-degree angle. This creates a bevel, and it makes it much easier to paint. So just go ahead and stick in there and cut around. Some of the turns you're going to have to kind of do a saw action. Usually with the smaller parts I just go kind of saw blade it all around. I know the camera's probably jiggling all over the place. And then you just kind of cut around. And then on the straight's easy, nice clean drag. Try to keep your blade angled. And I'm not going to go through all this because this can take like 3 to 4 hours or even more for a more complex design. So we're just going to give you some pointers here, little tips. Cut around, this nice straight lines on the A, that makes it very easy. And sometimes if you get in, you try not to dig too deep, but get in deep enough that it creates a nice line. And sometimes these will just pop out of here. This one, no, it's not ready to pop out. So I'm going to go back and forth between the tools here. Now the scratch board tool, you just take it, and all you're going to do is a little tiny shovel. You go in, and then you pull towards you, and you pick out, try not to dig into the side there. And okay, just dig in, pull back, pull towards you, and this will come right out. Set those aside. I usually have a little bucket here, but I'll get that for later. Then what you're doing on the larger areas, something you have a little space to it. You just want to go from right to left or left to right if you're left-handed. Dig in, and you're just going to dig out little squares, just like that. Just dig and pull. And another big key to this is you want to go against the grain of the styrofoam. Because if you go with the grain, the picking, it just does not come out as nice. This way, you get nice clean digs, and that just peels away from the wall after a while there. Get that. Set those aside. Yeah, that's the basic thing behind it. And we'll just dig in here and do another R. Kind of saw around. Dig, I don't know if you can see, make sure you can see that. Go up there. Kind of come around at an angle. Keep it 45 degrees. And set the blade down. Dig into the meat of it there. Pull. Dig and pull. And when you get towards the top of the cut, it'll just pull away. You can just kind of use your fingers there to dig that out. Let me go ahead and do a larger portion here, just to show you what we're doing here. Big thing to remember, try to keep a picture for reference, because there's so many times I have dug out the wrong spot. There's going to be recessed areas, and there's going to be foreground and background. And there's been a lot of times I have dug out the wrong area and I have to try to find a way to redo it. Like I get one, if I do one dig and you pull and you're like, oh, don't do that. Take some of the, we're going to be getting into the paints later, but there's a product called Mod Podge. It's a clear kind of sealant, protectant. It's a lot like Elmer's glue, really. And you just, if you do start to do that, just take a little dab of it, put it in there, press it back in, and worry about that later. But if you happen to dig the wrong area out, there's a couple tricks you can do. I'll get into those later. But for right now, we're going to do a larger, let's see, okay, in this case, this lettering here and here is foreground, and we want to dig out the background. However, it changes here. We want to dig into the letters. So let's do that with, we'll go right in the middle here. We're going to do a T. Cut the lines at a 45-degree angle. Cut over there. It's best to just work all the way around a different region so you don't have to worry about where you left off. The lines can be kind of hard to see when you cut unless you hold it at the right angle to the light. Cut it there, and then we go. See, I already forgot where I started. Right there. Okay, I remember I started with this line. So two more. One down this way, and then one over. And that should do our T. Sometimes it can help to kind of overcut. If you're digging something out, and then it's a lot easier to see that line. Okay, so now to dig this area out, we're going to a larger space. We're going to have to put a little more into it. So try to go for those. Try to dig out little cubes, and whenever you're starting there, you can kind of come at it both ways, so you don't dig into the side. And the motion I do, if you can see, I dig in straight down, and then I kind of pull and back away. You don't come straight at it. I'll do it again so you can see. You dig in, actually this way. When you're on this side, you can't really do that, but and you're in the middle, dig and pull in kind of a little arc like that. And the tip of the blade will hold on to the styrofoam usually. So you just do that on the sides, and you always want to try to make a right to left line and then go up a notch. Now this, you'll see this is coming all the way across. So we'll stop here. We're going to go over to this side of the T and do that just like we did before. Dig at kind of an angle. Been doing this for a long time, so I can do it fairly quickly. And that squeaking noise, if you can't stand it, this might not be the hobby for you. Styrofoam, I know, can have the squeaking noise can have that effect on a lot of people. So dig and pull, dig and pull. Pull that away. In there. Careful in the corners, you want to keep those nice and sharp. And then you're here, and you just continue the line. And then you have all the way to the next line, so we'll do that. Dig and pull, a little bit of an angle, a little bit of an arc. You can pretty much go straight down whenever you're digging in the middle of an area. So when you get to the edges, that we want to be a little more careful, and I'll show you. This is going to be, there's a good trick to do this. Makes it nice and easy, makes it nice and clean. Dig and pull, dig and pull. Keep going all the way over. Now you can do long lines like this, or you can do what I like to refer to as a 2-4-6-8 pattern. I'll show you that in a minute. But right now we're here at this edge, and if you wet your fingers a little, and you kind of pull it away, you can get a nice sharp break. Just drop that right away. Do this here. Be able to finish off the T. And as we get up in there, we want to come, if you're coming at it with the blade, try to like pull it away with your finger, and kind of like work in there. And if you pull it at an angle, you won't dig into the side, because that can be a little ugly sometimes. Okay, now we're going to do, I'm trying to find a good area on here to do this. Actually, I think right over here would be good. I'm going to cut all the way around. I'm going to do that first. This is a large rectangular area. As the blade likes to cut straight, so this is a nice clean cut. And I feel some resistance happening, so I'm going to have to change blades soon. You might have to do that every once in a while, because these blades do get dull, and you don't want to tear. You don't want to put a lot of work into something and have it come out all jaggedy and torn. But it'll hold up for the moment. You can tell by the feel of it how that's going to happen. Cut all the way up there. It's probably out of view. And then one last line here down. I'm not going to dig too far here because I'm going to bump into the letter soon. But what I do here, and this will help you keep nice straight lines, so when you go across, it's kind of like halfway between a machine did it and a human did it. It's organized, but it still has a little bit of randomness to it. Now you dig across, and what I'm doing here is 1, 2. I'll do this 3. I'll do it 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this doesn't have a large area, but there are some pieces that you'll have that have large cutout areas. What I do next is I'm going to do 1, 2, try to stay away from the T because I haven't cut it yet, 3, 4, 5, 6, and stop. And then say this area was wide open, say the T and the H weren't here. I would dig 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2. And then after that, what I do is 8 across, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and keep going there until you get to the edge. Then you do another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 4, and then 2. And what that does is help to keep your guide straight across. So, because if you do long lines, you might tend to go up or go down, and then it kind of creates it's not very visually pleasant. So that is pretty much what all I can tell you about cutting. I'm going to break here. I'm going to keep digging, and then whenever I get to the end here, I always save the outer areas for the end. There's a special trick that you're going to want to exercise in that. So let me go ahead and cut here, and I'll be back with part 2B. Oops, sorry, slide the table here. If you notice, this is my paint table. It's turning into abstract art, but that's neither here nor there. So we'll see you soon. Okay, everyone, we're back again. And as you see, we've carved out all the inside areas here, and I've left the outside so I can teach you a trick on doing this. Whenever you're doing the inside, well, I'll show you here. Whenever you're doing there's the grain goes this way. As I say, we want to cut against it. Whenever you're doing small areas like here, you can come at it from whatever direction is most comfortable. Like for the A and the T here, you would come at it from the bottom. And then for the O and the U, you'd want to spin that around so you don't have to reach all the way across the piece to dig those out. The T could go either way, it's right there. Now let's talk about some of these larger areas. As you see, this gets cut all the way top to bottom here, as is this. And I'll use Cross Creek as an example. Whenever you want to do a switch over from one side to the other so you're not reaching across the piece, you don't want to do it right in this area here, because there's a lot of space, and when you come at it from the bottom here and then you spin it around, you're coming at it from a different direction, and it creates a real ugly sort of scar. It's like a seam, a scar that'll never go away. And so the solution to that is to do an area where there's very little space from left to right. Like right here, what I did was I dug all the way up to this area right here, where there's barely, I mean, you can see it's not even a blade width from the C to the edge here, and up here as well. And it's really easy. You carve from here up, spin the piece around, and carve up to that same spot, and you really can't see the transition there. Now, when it comes to a larger piece, and I'm going to get another example here, because right here from edge to the seam it's consistent all the way up and down. But let's take this piece, and this is a piece for the Lightning softball fast pitch girls team. It's Madison, see things like that. And here you have more, you have like this kind of area over here, you have this area over here. Whenever I'm doing the outside edge, what I would do in this particular case was I would carve all the way up to right here about the 13. You could do it down here, but there's less space here than there is up there. It's kind of a wash in either case here. But when you go to the other side, what you want to do is carve all the way up to right about there, since that's halfway, and then spin the piece and come the other way. Because whenever you're cutting the top edge, to cut at it from this direction, it leaves a really, really jagged edge, and you don't want that. You always want to have the bottom dug towards you, then spin, make this the bottom, and dig that towards you, and find some place in the middle. Like right here is good. This is very little space, and right here where the L meets is a perfect spot because it's halfway. So we're going to do this right now for this piece, even though it's just straight lines. And when you get closer to the edge, sometimes the blade will go through. If you go too deep, it'll go through to this edge here. And in this particular case, there's still a good bit of space. Sometimes you'll draw it like really close to the edge, and if you cut through like that, don't worry about it. It's not going to take away from the piece. So we're going to go right here, and we're going to cut all the way up, and we're going to try to keep consistent with this other line that we cut. These holds nicely in place whenever you let it go. Good thing about the X-Acto knife. And just kind of cut it all the way over here. And we're going to go ahead and make our cut all the way around the piece, because this will be the finishing cuts. A little more space between the left and right here. Don't worry about being perfectly square. As long as it's reasonable, the visual will be just fine. All the way there. Cutting this way now. Take your time. There's no rush here. If you go too fast, it has a tendency to tear the styrofoam as well. So don't worry about it. Cutting is one of the things that you're going to want to spend extra time on. There's some steps that are quick and easy, but this you don't want to take a shortcut on. And I'm going to go all the way to the edge. Okay, now we're staying with the grain, which is in this case is sideways. Start at the bottom here, and we'll cut away. And you can see it's trying to pull away from the cut we just made, which is good, because we'll just do little bits at a time here, peel those away. And it comes, whenever you leave a thin space here, I'll show you this, and you just kind of cut away. And sometimes it'll just bend with the blade and come off like that, so it's going to be, your bottom's going to be like that. Your sides will be a little different. Let's go ahead and cut across here. Make sure my camera view, I'm not sure, I can't really see. Like see, like when I'm pulling here and the side's just naturally coming away. That's great. So peel that away. Little bits at a time. Nice clean edge there. Like to see that. Make sure my bucket doesn't fall off. Done that several times, and the vacuum doesn't take kindly to these pieces, so we try to keep as few of them on the floor as possible. And as you see, it's just coming away, so go ahead and use your fingers. And then we're going to do the sides, and so it's a thin line, so you could stop anywhere. I'm actually going to go ahead and reach across up to here, and that'll be my final cut from this edge. And then we're just going to spin it around and do the other edge the same way. So trying to make sure you don't cut into the side that's up. Nice easy lines here, or nice easy little honey blocks. Like that. Push those away. Drop them in the bucket. And all the way up. Lovely squeaking sound. Drives some people insane. Peel those off. A little piece there. And we're going to do the same to the other side here. Make sure not to dig in too deep, because this is a beveled edge. If you dig too deep, you're going to get little nicks and it's kind of unsightly. So not too much, that's all you need. Peel those away. Bucket. Like I said, we're going to go all the way to the top of this line and stop right there. Oh, one thing I do want to mention for the ladies who decide to pursue this craft, it does help to have shorter nails, because whenever you're pulling away pieces like this, sometimes a nail will get caught and dig out a piece, and it's you just got to be real careful if you have long nails. So just spin that around, and we're just going to do the same as we did the other side. Go ahead and pull this away. I mean, there is a transition there, but you really can't see it since it's such a small space. And just go right across. Careful of the line. Pull away some here. We're almost done. Those out of here. Oops. Right to the end there, and there's a little bit out there. Just take that and give it a flick, and it's a nice clean break there. And that is the carving. That is complete. Take a piece, give it a little tap against the table, because pretend it's an old Nintendo card. You give it a blow here, and there you go. That'll get all the pieces out of the way, and we'll be ready for painting. And that is, in fact, our next step here. If you take it and you hold it at different angles, sometimes the light will catch the background, make it darker there, so you can have a good look around. Make sure you got all your cuts, make sure you got all your digging out, and that's it. From there, we're going to go to the paint, and that'll be our next tutorial. Step 3, we're going to call it 3A, because there's several parts of painting. So thank you, and we'll be back. Okay, folks, we're back, and it's time to get to painting here, since we're kind of in the home stretch. And a few tips about paint. You're going to have to use a water-based paint, because the nature of styrofoam, if you tried to use oil-based paint, oil would eat the styrofoam away. So you definitely want to stay away from that. Typically, I use an acrylic from Michaels. They have a line of paint called Craft Smart. It's very inexpensive, and you can use it with, there's another product called Mod Podge. We'll get to that in a moment. But the acrylic paints, you can get large containers of them, and if you're not really good with mixing colors, they have many different colors in smaller bottles. So feel free to use that. Now, I live in West Virginia, which is WVU Mountaineer territory, so I typically have a lot of gold and blue pieces to do. So I have 2 specific cups made up for that. Now, I'm a little low on this, so I'm going to show you what we do here. For the blue, what you want to do is just take, this is a regular bright blue, and I put it in larger containers because it tends to not, it's a double-edged sword. It tends to not have to fill it, but they get these little things called, I like to call paint snots, and it plugs up the little holes there, so kind of have to try to get it to work here. All right, well that's going to be problematic for the moment, as is. Normally I would cut the top of that tip off, but we'll just leave that for now because that's plenty. But that's a brighter blue, so we're going to have to take, now before you add black to it, make sure that you just add a little bit of the time and mix it, because black acrylic paint is very potent. Just like a little tiny bit goes a long way in darkening up a color. So we'll have that, and I'll pick out a nice brush here. I got some new brushes, so this one will be good. And I'll just take that and mix it up here. See the black blending into the blue, and give it a good mix. Now the trick with different paints, different colors, is that let's go with a little more black on that actually. The lighter colors tend to be not as covering as darker paints are. Like this navy blue that we'll have here. Ooh. Okay, good. It didn't get too dark. Just enough. This navy blue will cover very well because it's a darker color. Black covers it exceptionally well. And what we do is this Mod Podge it's a product that is a sealant. It's a lot like Elmer's glue. It provides a nice clear coat. They have a variety of, well, not necessarily a variety, but 2 different kinds. They have the matte and the gloss finish. I had the gloss because I like the appearance of the pieces afterwards. And with the dark color, you want to mix it half and half. It starts out white, but as you stir it in, it just sort of disappears into the paint color itself. All right, so that's a good amount of blue paint. It will look a little lighter because the Mod Podge is still white until it dries, but this will dry a different color, like most paint does. So get that a good stir in there. Okay, and there, we've got a nice supply of navy blue there for this piece. That's going to be our background color. And we can get rid of this black. Now the gold is, I pre-mix my own. I take an orange and add some yellow to it, and it comes out a nice color here. Let me put this aside, because I'm going to need another brush to, actually no I won't. Here's what I was going to get at with the colors. The lighter colors, especially the golds and the yellows, are going to need multiple coats. So I like to stay away from pre-mixing the gold in the Mod Podge because it makes it even more difficult to cover. First we're going to do is we're just going to, it's plugged pretty well too. That's okay. I have enough there to work with for the show. It's a show now all of a sudden. But this will be for later. This is our foreground color, which we're going to paint on the upper letters here in this area. So for this step, this is actually step 8, and it's going to be the background. So we have our blue background. Now when you're painting the background, it depends on the color. This is going to be a dark background, so we're not going to want to splash too much up on here, since we'll be trying to cover all this area with the light gold. If it was the other way around, if you had the gold here, you could probably be pretty sloppy because the blue's going to cover it. You don't want to splash it so much that it creates runs or anything like that, but for the blue, you have to be a little more careful. I like to start in the middle, work my way out, so don't put my hand in the paint as I always usually do. Let's just kind of dab it in there, get it nice and thick. This will cover in one coat if it's thick enough. Just kind of like work the edges. It's okay if you go a little bit on there. That's going to happen. And you kind of drag the brush, so it's like you're taking like against a paint can, and you see it creates a wow. Feel free to do this with your finger. That's where most of the paint on my table comes from finger wiping. And then you can come at the bottom like that, because the edges, the smooth edges that you've created with the blade, the paint doesn't really have something to grip onto. So it's kind of like just take the edge up there and then work it in. So you get yourself a nice thick region around there. And that'll keep you from having to do multiple coats or go back and do touch-ups. Really not a lot to this. That's pretty much all the tips I can give. So I'm not going to be painting a whole lot here for this clip. Just kind of like work it through. Make sure it covers, make sure you get to the top, not splash too much over. And then once you get the edges done, you can be kind of sloppy here, just kind of dab it in. Make sure you get some good coverage. Actually use quite a bit more paint for the similar colors that you would do on the background. You use more paint than you would on the foreground usually. So it's good to have a good amount mixed up like we did here. And let's see, gotta do the edges here. Nice and easy. Over here as well. Try not to splash too much up on there. Corners, just kind of work your brush in there a little bit. Helps to have good brushes. Like this is a nice smooth edge. Some of my brushes are a little worn out. Like this one, kind of the bristles go kind of all over the place because there's paint caked in the bottom here. So pays to brush upkeep is very important. Spin that around, kind of just dab it in there. Make sure your pits are covered there. Yeah, that's basically it. You just working in. There's no big secret to it other than what I showed you. And I'm going to go ahead and finish doing the rest of the background. Let that dry, and which is probably the longest, what takes the longest in StyroArt. But after that's done, we will go to the foreground, and that'll be our next episode here. Let me slide this out so I can stop the video, and we'll see you then. Okay, everyone, we're back here, and we're ready to do the foreground. Now, the background I have let lay overnight to dry. As you can see, it's dried. Nice deep blue, shiny, and it's ready to go. It's not going to need a second coat. And you want to let your background, if you can, you want to let your background dry overnight so it cures up nicely. And if you can't do that, what you can do is set it up at a slight angle, about like that, 10 degrees or so, and then have a fan in front of it blowing air across it, and that'll help the paint dry quicker. But it's still going to need some time. Just at least give it a few hours for the surface area to set up, because you don't want to put your hand in it and make a mess and all that. So what we're going to do now is start the foreground. I'm not going to show you the entire thing, but I will show you some tips here. And let's start with the T in the middle. Go ahead and, this paint's been sitting for a while, so I'm going to stir it up, make it nice and smooth. Just like that. Okay, you can get a nice amount on your brush. And when you come at the very edges here, what you're going to do is rest your brush just away from it. And you're going to push the paint to the edge. See if I can get a good glob here. Yeah, and you're just going to push the paint right to the edge, and when it meets it, it should hang on just like that. Because what this is going to do is give you a thick coat, and it's going to help you cover up the lines that you drew with the Sharpie. Like that. And then once you create that, you can kind of blend it in so you don't end up with a thick line with the texture. And like I said, this is a light color. A gold is going to require multiple coats, so go ahead and be concerned more about getting the lines covered up where you drew them. Just like that. You can come from the other side too. Blend it down. Go up there. Try to keep your brush steady so you don't get too far over the line there. And even if this is going to be a good tip for later. Just kind of don't touch the edge of the foam so much as hovering over it with the paintbrush, and kind of let the paint adhere to the surface, and then just drag lightly across. And what that'll do is create a nice line, and then you come to the other side of it and kind of blend it in. And since we're going to be doing multiple coats, when you cover a surface area outside of the line or outside of the edge, just kind of like take it, lightly drag your brush, and you can see it's not going to cover entirely, but there will be multiple coats, and if you do it really thick, it's going to kind of be unattractive. So we want to keep a nice smooth. Oops, there's some on there. Get off. Okay, there it goes. Just kind of drag your brush and make a nice smooth coat. Just like that. Just like that there. Okay, so that's basically what I'm going to be doing with the rest of it, all through the letters and everything. Now, whenever you come to, and this is a good example because it has multiple areas, you'll notice the thin line that goes all the way around. Here's what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to get a good amount on there and do just like we did, hover over it. And what this will let you do is make a nice thick coat. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And what that's going to save me later is from having to go on there and do multiple coats, because this is going to be a thick line, and since, well, it's not a thick coat on a thin line, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You're going to do it just like that. And since it is such a thin line, you don't have to worry about the kind of streakiness you would have on a thicker or a wider area. So let's do that all the way around. And that's pretty much it for painting the foreground. I'm going to go ahead and finish that up, and then we're almost at the end here. Once you get the multiple coats on, you get a nice coverage. Oh, by the way, this is the pure gold here. The one other thing, the blue I mixed with the Mod Podge, and you can do that for a darker color because it's only going to take one coat. But you want a more pure color for your base coats. Because if you mix it with the Mod Podge now, you're going to end up doing 8-9 coats before the thing is covered. So yeah, use the pure for light colors the second time around, and then you can mix the Mod Podge and give it the nice gloss. And basically that's it. Whenever we finish the foreground, the last step is really to do the sides, and I'll make a short video for that just so you can see it all the way through. And but for now, that is about it. And let me move to the table here so I can stand up and stop the video, and we'll see you then. Okay folks, finally back here, finishing the StyroArt video tutorial, and as you can see, we finally got the foreground painted. Gold is a very tricky color, as is yellow, to get to cover. It took about 5 coats before this was completed here. A little bit of blue there. And as you can see, I blopped here, there's a blop here, and when you do the foreground, it's not uncommon for that to happen. So we'll be able to touch those up. But right now we're going to do the sides, and I'll show you how we're going to do this. It's actually quite simple and won't take long here. Let's get some paint on the brush and just use the side of it and kind of blop it around. Get some coverage, get full coverage here. Don't worry about lumps or anything like that. We're going to take care of that in a second. Feel free to use plenty because we're going to smooth it over really nice here in a moment. Make sure you got there too. And since this is navy blue, we're only going to have to do 1 coat. Even if it comes out a little light, people don't see the sides of it. People don't look at the sides of the piece. I guess they see them, but they don't really focus on them. So if it's not quite as covered as the regular foreground or the background for that matter is, don't be too concerned about that. Let's get one edge complete here. And then what you're going to do is you can hold the brush real lightly, just like 2 fingers, just like it's almost about to fall out of your hands, and lay it there and just drag it up, all the way up the edge to make it nice and smooth. And that's how you do an edge. Now, you're going to do all 4 edges. You spin that, you'll be able to hold it on this side. Spin that, you'll be able to still hold it on this side. When you get to the last side, all you got to do is, against the edge of the table, just hold it like that. Take a brush out of my mouth. Since the foreground is dry, you'll be able to just do it like that. Afterwards, you'll also want to look, because there's a little bit of blopping here on the sides. You might be able to see that. Just be able to do touch-ups, and once you do that, that is the task. The StyroArt just needs to dry, and it is complete. And that is full circle where we are on StyroArt tutorial. So hope you enjoyed it. Hope you pursue it. If you don't, maybe pass the information on to somebody you know, and give them a new hobby. It's a great hobby. You're not going to make a whole lot of money off of it. I'll warn you ahead of time. But it's something to kill some time, keep you out of the bars, keep you from doing other more horrible things, perhaps. That's what it does for me. But that's it. So hope you enjoyed it, and talk to you later.